Okay, so this is a short video to give you an idea of a whiteboard challenge. So what I've done is I've gone to the My Dundee page. So I've gone to the session for the whiteboard challenge. I've clicked on this link here, the staff computing link, to get a randomized selection of user, device and task. So what the main thing about this is that you come up with a way in which you can share your information. So the way that I'm doing it is I'm sharing my screen using the Miro whiteboard, and I have Miro on my iPad, and as I write it appears on there. You might want to do things like just kind of hold the phone over a bit of paper, balance it on a pile of books. If you have a whiteboard in your house and you've got a tripod, that's great. So you're not necessarily going to see a lot of me, just my head and what I create. So I've been asked to design a task for a school pupil aged 14 using a smartwatch to play a game to learn a language. So what I've done is, the way that I tend to do these is I've set up a framework for me to work within. So you should recognize this box here. So this box here is the name, sketch and role, demographics, behaviors and belief, and needs and goals. So these come from the Lean UX personas. I've then got a section for assumptions and a section for the idea. So if you have just a bit of paper, then that's your border. I've just put a border around to make it a bit easier, and also to kind of keep me within some boundaries. So the idea is that you would run through your initial ideas that you have about the user. Any assumptions you make, you want to write them in the assumptions section, obviously, and then your idea generation is what's going to happen here. So you'll see some elements of the sprint process that I'm trying to incorporate here, and some of it is just sketching out new UIs now that you've got some information. So who am I going for? So let me just write that in. I have a school pupil aged 14, and they're using a smartwatch game to learn a language. So although I've kind of wrote that shorthand, it's important that you keep that at the top of what you're doing. So this idea of permanency, make sure you can see what it is you're trying to create. Okay, so my school pupil, I am going to go for a school pupil called, let me just zoom in ever so slightly and let you see what I'm doing. So my school pupil is going to be called Steve. Steve, this is Steve here. Steve's like a little happy-go-lucky chap. So Steve, we'll give him some, I don't know, hands and a smartwatch on here. So Steve is a school pupil. He's aged 14. So what do I know about him? So he's 14, he lives with, well, he's got a smartwatch and he's a school pupil, so he's obviously kind of got that from a birthday or so on. So let's say he lives in an affluent area. And so my assumption here is that smartwatches are expensive. I need my rubber. Okay, so it comes from an affluent area. What does he need to be able to do? He wants to learn a language. So I guess from this we can probably say that he often goes on foreign holidays. He likes to explore new cultures. And let's just say, to emphasize his need for a language, I'm going to make a reasonable guess that his parents come from different, I am sinking. So I'm going to say that his parents come from different cultural backgrounds. So this is kind of his sense that at home he's experiencing different cultures and he wants to continue that when he goes on foreign holidays. He wants to learn a language, but he is busy. He goes to lots of after-school clubs. And so he needs to learn a language. He has lost my pen. He has a short time window to learn. So he has very little free time. So I'm going to make an assumption here about micro interactions. I'm going to say that actually micro interactions are key and that he has lots of space for this. So I'm going to assume that these are a good way to learn. Okay, so my idea then. So I have Steve, who's my school pupil here. What does Steve do with his day? So he attends school. He then probably goes for lunch with his friends. So yeah, maybe we can also make some something here that Steve is competitive. So we can make some, he's got a kind of competitive behaviour when he's going for lunch with his friends. They're often kind of competing each other. Who ran fastest, who's got the highest score, who scored more goals in FIFA, whatever 14-year-olds compete about. So he goes for lunch. He's then back at school, which starts with an S. He then plays for a football team. So he goes to football training. He then has dinner. And I think we can probably say that he then plays games online. So he's got very little free time. So what I think we can do here is we can create a game for Steve where he has these micro interactions that interact. He can interact at various points throughout his day because we also are assuming that repetition is a good way to learn. So we'll also assume that. And this means that Steve can play the game, assume his other friends play this game, and so he will learn about new culture and a language through these micro interactions that are competitive. So the idea then, if I start with some interfaces, so let's assume that Steve, he arrives at school, and then when he goes to a new location, so the important thing here is that school is his location. And so his smartwatch will kind of ping up with a notification, and the notification is that he has something that he has to learn the word for. So let's assume he is going to learn, what's he going to learn? French. So it will pop up with, let's say, a picture of a book. And it will have the English word book beside it. And then it's going to have two options for him. And there'll be two words here. And he has to pick whatever is the best word. So if he picks the correct answer, he'll get just a little correct notification. And if he picks the wrong answer, he's going to get a wrong answer. And so each of these could have like that's supposed to be a sound notification. So each of these can have a sound notification. And so he can turn sound off if he wants to. He's often about other people, so maybe he doesn't want sound, but it's there as an option. And because it's there as an option, you can make it so that you can, in fact, I'll just stick to it here. We'll make it so that these buttons here at the side, he can play the sound. So if I make it a little bit bigger, we have that sound icon that we've already seen. And so that's what's being shown here. And that will play the words as sounds. Okay, so once he's done this, he'll then be taken to a screen that shows his kind of correct words. So this will be today. He has 3 correct words, and it will work back the way. So he'll have various correct words over the previous days. And so this is today. Time goes this way. And so what he has is he has a constant sense of who he is with, and then constant sense of not who he's with, a constant sense of the points and the games, the amount that he's scored. And so this will probably have some kind of special color notification, and it will kind of vibrate perhaps just to say, well, look, this is today, this is where we're at. And so if we have just a little arrow here, that'll just mean swipe, and that'll take him back to his main screen, where he can see the number of points that have been gained that day. So it will be for today, and you can see that of all the points today, these will be like little faces, so there'll be a face for different people. These will be faces. And so this person here, who has the biggest selection of all the marks for that day, this person is clearly going to be the winning person for that day. And so it will be a competition that repeats itself. And because he's constantly playing these online games, and he's chatting with his friends up here, so because he's always online and chatting with his friends, at the end of the day, they're sort of like, well, I got the most points today, and then they can start again the following day. So it's always a daily thing. And the reason it's always a daily thing is because he's constantly seeing his friends, so they need to have some, if it's a thing where the competition goes on for a week, sometimes it becomes less important and they don't talk about it, but because it's every day, they have opportunities every day to discuss that. And then obviously we have some extensions that could be done. So there could be team-based competition where Steve and his friends compete against, players from a different football team, for example. And we can have language selection. And if you want to learn multiple languages, you can do that and it will intercept. And then we can really play on this location thing. So this location thing is important because when he goes to the football field, it will ask him what is a ball, what is a goal, what is the colour green, what is shorts, t-shirt, football. So it will give him lots of options depending on where he is. So that means that Steve is going to learn the vocabulary that he needs relative to situations that he finds himself in. So that should give you, if I just zoom out again, a sense of roughly what has been created, roughly the progress of the idea. So you can see that they've got a profile, I've got some assumptions, and I've got almost like a little journey map, and then I've come up with a solution. So that is, in a nutshell, a whiteboard challenge.